In the shadows of a towering pine forest, a colossal herbivore, a long-necked diplodocus, has its foot stuck in a dangerous mud puddle. It roars, a sound that shakes the earth, signaling not only pain but also the bell signaling a meal for the forest's ghosts. From the edge of the forest, a shadow separates, moving with terrifying, calculated intent despite its massive weight. This is not the Tyrannosaurus Rex you've seen in the movies, a predator that dominated the world when continents still huddled together in a desperate embrace. The battle is brief but fierce, a testament to a law as ancient as time itself. The strong devour and the weak return carbon to the earth. We are forced to realize that our modern world is merely a thin shell concealing a history written in blood and bone. Before we begin exploring this prehistoric hunting method, subscribe to the channel and join us in discovering the true masters of the Jurassic period. When we think of the ultimate predators, our minds almost instinctively jump to the icons of the Cretaceous, like the Spinosaurus or the Giganotosaurus. We envision the Tyrannosaurus Rex as the undisputed climax of evolution, the final boss of the dinosaur world. But this perspective is a bit like reading only the final chapter of a grand epic and claiming to understand the hero's journey. Long before the first T-Rex ever drew breath, the Jurassic period was already a theater of specialized, massive, and highly successful killing machines. These were the apex hunters who shaped the very foundations of terrestrial life, proving that the planet was claimed by the dinosaurs long before the famous names arrived. The Jurassic was a time of immense transition, a golden age where the Earth's crust was tearing itself apart and life was exploding into every available niche. During this era, the first true giants of the carnivorous world emerged, setting the stage for everything that would follow. They were the architects of a new world order, establishing the blueprints for speed, power, and sensory dominance that would define the theropod lineage for over 100 million years. To understand these predators is to understand the raw, unfiltered essence of the natural world, a place where survival was never guaranteed and every meal was a hard-won victory. Our journey into the depths of the Jurassic begins with a group known as the Megalosaurids, the first truly widespread dynasty of giant carnivores. They rose to prominence during the Middle Jurassic and maintained their grip on the world well into the late Jurassic, spreading across what would become Europe, Africa, and the Americas. These were not the flashy, crested hunters of later eras, but rather robust, utilitarian killers designed for efficiency. With their elongated skulls and rows of teeth like serrated steak knives, they represented the first major evolutionary trend toward massive size in meat-eating dinosaurs. Megalosaurids were the pioneers of the giant lifestyle, teaching the world that a predator could be both heavy and agile enough to bring down substantial prey. Their success lay in their adaptability, as they managed to thrive in a variety of environments, from coastal plains to dense inland forests. They were the generalists of their time, a lineage that proved size was a winning strategy in the arms race between hunter and hunted. As the millions of years ticked by, these animals pushed the boundaries of their biology, growing larger and more formidable with each passing generation. Within this ancestral line, one name stands out as a symbol of pure, unadulterated power: Torvosaurus. Reaching lengths of up to 10 meters and weighing several tons, Torvosaurus was the heavyweight champion of its ecosystem, a brute that likely feared nothing else in its world. Its body was built like a tank, supported by thick, muscular legs and a torso that could withstand the thrashing of a desperate prey item. While many other theropods were leaning toward more gracile, bird-like forms, Torvosaurus remained a monument to physical strength and bone-crushing capability. The most striking feature of Torvosaurus, however, was not its size, but its arms. Unlike the famously tiny arms of the later T-Rex, Torvosaurus possessed limbs that were relatively short but incredibly powerful, ending in massive, hooked claws. These were tools of subjugation, used to grapple with and hold onto prey while its massive jaws finished the job. This suggests a hunting strategy based on close-quarters combat, a visceral struggle where the predator used its entire body to overwhelm the resistance. It was a master of control, a king that ruled through a combination of weight, muscle, and relentless pressure. As we move through the middle chapters of the Jurassic, we encounter a fascinating group known as the Metriacanthosaurids. These predators represent a critical bridge in the history of life, an evolutionary stepping stone between the primitive giants and the more advanced hunters of the late Jurassic. Primarily found in the regions that would one day be Europe and Asia, they were the refined assassins of their day. Their silhouettes were made unique by their tall vertebral spines, which might have supported a ridge of muscle or skin, perhaps used for communication or temperature regulation. The anatomy of a Metriacanthosaurid tells a story of a predator coming into its own, refining the art of the kill. They were generally more lightly built than the megalosaurids, suggesting a greater emphasis on speed and precision in their hunting tactics. This transition marks a shift in the ecological landscape, where the sheer size of the herbivores demanded a hunter that was not just strong, but also tactically superior. They were the ancestors of the great Allosaur lineage, carrying the genetic torch that would eventually light the way for the most successful predators the world had ever seen. If we look toward the ancient landscapes of Asia, we find a Metriacanthosaurid that dominated the ecosystem with undisputed authority, the Yangchuanosaurus. This was the apex hunter of the late Jurassic in what is now China, a region then teeming with massive, long-necked sauropods. Yangchuanosaurus was a magnificent animal, equipped with a large, deep skull filled with curved, recurved teeth designed to rip through thick hide and muscle. Its presence in the fossil record is so well documented that it serves as our primary window into how high-level predation worked in the eastern reaches of the supercontinent. Hunting a sauropod that could weigh 20 or 30 tons was not a task for the faint of heart. Yangchuanosaurus likely relied on its muscular build and its ability to deliver devastating bites to the neck or flanks of its prey, waiting for blood loss and shock to take their toll. It was an animal that understood the value of patience and the calculated application of force. In the humid, prehistoric jungles of Asia, the sight of a Yangchuanosaurus emerging from the mist must have been the ultimate personification of death, a silent reminder that no matter how large an animal grew, there was always something capable of tearing it down. As the Jurassic period reached its final act, a new family rose to claim the title of the era's most successful hunters, the Allosaurids. These were the quintessential theropods, a group that achieved a near-perfect balance between speed, strength, and sensory perception. They were the most widespread predators of their time, with their fossils found on nearly every continent, proving that their design was a universal success. The Allosaurids were the masters of the late Jurassic, presiding over a world that was as diverse as it was dangerous. The secret to the Allosaurids' success was their versatility. They were large enough to challenge the giants, yet agile enough to pursue smaller, faster prey. This flexibility allowed them to occupy multiple roles within a single ecosystem, ensuring that they were never at the mercy of a single food source. They lived in a world of giants, standing side by side with some of the largest herbivores to ever walk the earth, and they did more than just survive, they thrived. They were the dominant force in a global theater of survival, a testament to the power of evolutionary refinement. Among this elite group, one predator stands above all others as the defining icon of the age, Allosaurus, often called the Lion of the Jurassic. Reaching lengths of 10 meters, Allosaurus was a masterpiece of predatory engineering. It possessed a skull that was uniquely designed to handle immense stress, with a jaw that could open wider than almost any other theropod. Its arms were long and functional, equipped with 3 sharp claws that could slash and grip, making it a multifaceted weapon of war. It didn't just bite its prey, it dismantled it. One of the most fascinating theories about Allosaurus is how it used its skull during a hunt. Paleontologists believe it may have used its upper jaw like a hatchet, swinging its head down onto its prey with incredible force to create massive, bleeding wounds. This hit-and-run tactic would allow it to weaken much larger animals without putting itself in immediate danger from a retaliatory kick or tail swipe. This was a sophisticated way of killing, a strategy that prioritized survival just as much as the meal itself. Allosaurus was a thinker's killer, a predator that used the laws of physics to bridge the gap between its own size and that of its titanic prey. However, the story of Allosaurus becomes even more intriguing when we look at its variations, specifically a massive species known as Allosaurus gimidseni. This variant was particularly robust, representing perhaps the absolute peak of the Allosaurid design. The existence of such a giant suggests that the Jurassic ecosystems were far more complex than we once thought. It implies a world where multiple large predators could coexist by carving out specific niches, perhaps with one species focusing on speed and the other on raw power. This niche differentiation is a hallmark of a healthy, mature ecosystem. It shows us that the Jurassic was not just a chaotic free-for-all, but a finely tuned machine where every animal had a role to play. Allosaurus gimidseni was a specialist in a world of generalists, a giant among giants that occupied the very top of the food chain. Its presence reminds us that even within a successful genus, nature is always tinkering, always searching for a way to push the limits of what is possible. It was the final, grand expression of the Allosaurid reign before the tides of time began to turn toward the Cretaceous. As we look back at these forgotten kings, we see a clear narrative of dominance and evolution. Before the first T-Rex ever let out a roar, the megalosaurids, Metriacanthosaurids, and Allosaurids had already mastered the art of the hunt. They were the true sovereigns of the Jurassic, ruling for tens of millions of years and shaping the trajectory of life on Earth. They were not merely previews for the Cretaceous giants. They were complete, successful, and terrifying entities in their own right. They proved that the crown of king has been worn by many heads throughout the long history of our planet. The history of these predators teaches us a profound lesson about the nature of power and legacy. We often focus on the biggest or the most famous, but the true strength of a lineage lies in its ability to adapt and endure through changing ages. These Jurassic hunters established the rules of the game, and though they eventually vanished, their influence lived on in the giants that followed. It is a reminder that every era has its masters, and every king eventually yields to the relentless march of time. Our own time at the top of the food chain is but a heartbeat in the grand scale of the Jurassic, a sobering thought for a species that often considers itself the center of the universe. Nature does not care about our labels or our fame, it only cares about what works in the moment. The Allosaurus didn't know it was a precursor to anything. It only knew the heat of the sun, the scent of the rain, and the drive to survive. It lived its life with a purity of purpose that we can only imagine, a life defined by the raw instincts of hunger, territory, and competition. When we study these animals, we aren't just looking at fossils. We are looking at the fundamental mechanics of existence, stripped of all human ego and artifice. Think about the silent power of the Yangchuanosaurus or the brutal efficiency of the Torvosaurus. Does our modern dominance feel more secure, or do you feel the weight of the millions of years that came before us? How will we be remembered when the next era of kings rises to claim the Earth? These are the questions that keep the spirit of discovery alive, reminding us that the past is never truly dead. It is just waiting to be uncovered. If you found this journey into the lost world of the Jurassic intriguing, make sure to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these Jurassic giants do you think was the most formidable hunter? Your engagement helps us continue to tell the stories of the ancient world and the incredible creatures that once called it home. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss a deep dive into the mysteries of nature and history.